Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. We're starting a new book today, Book of Numbers. Well, here we go. Time to do math, right? No, not exactly. There's a lot to learn in this book, and there's a continuing of revealing ourselves to ourselves and revealing of Yahweh to us as well. We saw that in the last book. We saw that people were brought out. Okay, they were in bondage. They were oppressed, they were brought out, they were redeemed, they were brought by a mighty hand, Pesach, right? By a mighty hand, brought out, brought through the mikveh, brought through the water, brought to the mountain, so that Yahweh could reveal himself to his people and show his heart to his people and reaffirm covenant with his people and show them his desires for them to walk in a land that he is taking them to. He was equipping them to learn how to walk in his word, in his ways, so that they could be blessed, so that they could uphold the covenant wherever they go, so that they could honor Yahweh with everything they are, and to be that people that is set apart that he's called us to be. Now, in this book, Numbers, we see how that starts to unfold. We see how that starts to play out. We see a lot of choices and a lot of decisions that were made. We see some good decisions. We see a lot of bad decisions. And ultimately, if we take a really good look, we can see pieces of our lives, pieces of ourselves in the entirety of this book. And ultimately, everything that's written here is for us to learn, for us to use as examples, things to do, things not to do, how to approach things, how to change our mindset about things. And it's not just about numbers. See, when Yahweh brought his people out, he brought them out, and then one of the first things he did when he brought them out was to group them together according to their families. Group them together by tribes, by the 12 children of Yaakov called Israel, right? So when they were in Mitzrayim, they were more than likely grouped together by their jobs, by their tasks, by the things that they did. And what Yahweh wants to reiterate to us is when he brings us out and brings us to himself, not only does he want us to connect with him, he wants us to connect with one another. He brings us into our families so that we can learn to walk together as our family. Now, we see this immediately as our household, right? You know, as our mothers, fathers, children, brothers, sisters. I mean, all this bringing together an immediate family, but we need to see this as well as working through extension. Not just my family, but those living next to me, and not just them, but those that I'm surrounded with. We are, and again, this is a covenant people at the mountain. So everyone there was affirming covenant with Yahweh and that they would walk with him. So everyone here was in some way, shape, or form family. Now, whether they were born into Israel or being grafted in alongside, right? Because there were some who came alongside with them who, I believe, firmly entered into covenant with Yahweh there, because we read all the people said, right? So there were people of other nations that came in to be a part with Israel, and they came to live among the tribes, to live among the people, to see themselves as a big family. Now, it starts in the home, but they have to see themselves further as part of a whole and learn to operate and function daily in that aspect. Again, honoring Yahweh in all of it. Okay, honoring Yahweh in the things that I do personally in my life, and then the things in my household, and the things in my neighborhood, and going into our towns and cities, and ultimately our nation, right? But as a collective group of people, it starts with us as individuals. Us as individuals need to make that commitment to Yahweh that we will serve him, we will honor him, we will live in a way that pleases him and that is a blessing to him. And by doing so, we lock arms with those around us. And it just grows and grows and grows. If we want the nation as a whole to be righteous, it starts with the individuals making the decision to do so. Okay, so we see all this is related, it ties in together. And it's not just about numbers. Okay, we know it starts off with numbers. You know, when you read books and you look at the title, you're like, oh yeah, that's a book that catches my eye. Let me check out a little more. You flip inside the cover and the back cover. You look around, you're reading, you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this book, right? Well, numbers, is that one you'd buy? Consider this. The name of the book in Hebrew is Bamidbar, in the wilderness. See, Midbar is the word for wilderness. Now, interestingly, medaber is in speech, in things that are said. So what we have here, if you look at this, the Bamidbar, the be at the beginning, the beit is a house. It can be in, the be is in, but the beit is a house. And the mem as a prefix means from. Okay, so ba, right? Daver is speech, things that are said, things or speech. So bamedaber is in the things that are said, in our speech, but can also be looked at this way, in the house from speech. How does that make sense? Well, we put it this way: you live in what you build. You live in what you speak. You live in the things that you say day by day. See, because the things that we speak, are we speaking the things of life? Are we speaking the things from Yahweh? Are we speaking his word? Are we speaking fear? Are we speaking the promises Yahweh has for us? And all through the scripture, he's telling us to turn our hearts and our minds, our eyes, our ears, our intent, everything that we are to him, to face it towards him, his word, his life, his ways, and learn to walk with him. Okay, that's what we're doing. So what we saw was Vayikra shows us how to draw near to Yahweh and how to have a relationship with others as a holy people. But Midbar is now giving us the opportunity to walk out what we have been instructed in. See, they were at the mountain. They were given the instructions of Yahweh. Now, what are they going to do with it? And that's the way the word is. That's the way the Torah is. See, we're given the word, and he tells us what he desires, but we have to make the decision if we're actually going to do it. We have to make the decision if we're actually going to live in it or if we're actually going to walk opposed to it. See, those are the decisions that we have to make. And life can sometimes be a wilderness, can it not? Life can be, sometimes you feel dry. Sometimes you feel like, okay, you're out here and where's everybody else? And there's a lot to be said about the wilderness, but don't forget this. When Yahweh redeemed his people, he brought them into the wilderness where there was nothing else. So all they had was him. So where they're everything they were, their very being of how they lived every day, centered on Yahweh, his people, his family, the tabernacle, the service, the worship, all of this showing how to walk in the wilderness. So are we walking through the wilderness in faith? Are we receiving the words that Yahweh gave us in the Torah in faith? Isn't that what scripture says? That we're to live by faith, not by sight, but by faith, right? And faith comes by what? We say faith comes by hearing the word, right? Well, they just heard the word. They're living the word. And that's where it actually gets to become part of your life. See, it's not just hearing the word that we're looking at. It's to hear with the intent of acting on what you have heard. That's faith. That's I hear, I receive, and I will walk that way. That is faith, right? Like Abraham, he believed God and it was credited to him as righteousness, right? Well, that believe is faith. He believed, so he acted on what Yahweh instructed him to do, and it was counted to him as righteousness. So in life, do we receive the words from Yahweh in faith? Do we walk according to his word, his ways, his heart in faith? Look at this, Hebrews 4, 1 and 2. It says, let us fear then, through the promise of entering his rest is left open, some of you would seem to have fallen short. For we also have had good news proclaimed to us, just as they did. But the word they heard did not help them because they were not unified with those who listened with faith. See, can you imagine being in such a place to where you hear the word of Yahweh, but it doesn't do you any good? It's hard to think that, right? It's hard to think about that way. But if you do not receive the words in faith, then it's nothing more than just words. See, like the scripture, if you're just reading it as a history book, it's just a history book. But if you're reading it as the heart of Yahweh to his people, if you're receiving his word as his heart to us, we receive it in faith, learning how to live, learning how to walk. Hebrews 3, 8 and 10 It says, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion on the day of the testing in the wilderness. There your fathers put me to the test, though they saw my works for 40 years. Therefore, I was provoked by this generation, and I said, they always go astray in their heart, and they have not known my ways, which, by the way, we can see in other places, like Psalm 95, verse 7 says, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the flock of his hand. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as at Meribah, as in the day of Massah in the wilderness. When your fathers tested me, they challenged me, even though they had seen my work. For 40 years I loathed that generation, so I said, it is a people whose heart goes astray, who do not know my ways. Therefore I swore in my anger, they shall never enter my rest. So we need to know his ways. The scripture says that the people of Israel, they knew his ways, or his deeds, but Moshe knew his ways. There's a difference to look at Yahweh and to say, okay, I can see the things you've done, but it's another to say, I know you. See, two different things. And that's what we need. We need to have that experience instead of backing away from the mountain. When Yahweh calls us forward to hear his word and to receive from him, we need to approach. That was the intent, but the people backed off. See, so we need to hear the word. We need to hear it in faith. And by doing so, we are solidifying who we are, in our hearts. And because Yahweh's already called us to be a part of his family, where he's called us to be a part of his people, a nation, but a family. That's ultimately what it is. It's a family. And so Yahweh, when he redeems you, when he calls you out, he puts you among his family, a people called Israel. Now, one of the great things about that is you're now part of a people that are called by his name. On the other side of that, people are people, and people are imperfect, and people have problems and issues, and some people want to hear and do the right thing, and some people don't, and some people mess up in trying to do what's right, and feelings get hurt, and people get offended, and guess what? That's life. That's just the way it goes. The real question is, what do we do when these things happen? Do we follow the heart of the Father and try to work redemptively, restoratively, and showing the heart of Yahweh to those around us? Or are we going to be the ones to continue to divide the body and continue to not bring healing to the body? We need to be ones, instead of pointing out all the problems in the body, and let's face it, there are plenty of problems in the body of Messiah. But we need to be people to help to be part of the solution. We need to be people to show the heart of Yahweh and to help be redemptive in our thoughts, in our speech, in the things, in the way we're approaching one another. We need to work redemptively and restoratively with the people of Yahweh. We need to show honor to one another, be humble with one another, see each other as valuable, and help lift each other up and build each other up. And when correction is needed, yeah, definitely bring correction. But we need to continue to build each other up, because we need to be together and stick together as one body. We see this again, because like I said, when they were brought out, Yahweh grouped them by their families. So they had to learn to dwell with their family and to dwell by extension, their nation, right? We are one people with many parts. Are we willing to be a part of the body of Yahweh is the question. Or are we more willing to be a part from the body? See, are we willing to be a part of the body? And we can say things like, yeah, but they offended me. They hurt my feelings. They said things to me that weren't nice, and they were just rude. And you know what? You're probably right. But what do we do with that? Do we forgive? Do we try to work redemptively in relationships? Or we can choose to walk away. We need to show love to one another. Isn't that what Yeshua said? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and mind, and love your neighbor, love your brother as yourself. And that is how we show our life with Yahweh. That's hard. See, it's easy to look at Yahweh and say, I love you, Yahweh, and I just want to spend days with you here, and I just want to spend time with you and do that. But he says he wants you to spend time with your family, to spend time with one another, as well as time with him. See? So, we're talking about in the wilderness, you got family bonding. We're supposed to be a tight-knit family. You got family bonding in the wilderness. Look, Psalm 68:17 says, "The Lord is among them as in Sinai in the holy place." In the Hebrew, it reads, "Adonai bam sine bekodesh." So, Adonai in them, Sinai in the holy sanctuary. What this is telling us literally is that when we come together and acknowledge that He is our Elohim, He is with us, He is also in us. And we can take the Sinai experience with us by being a sanctuary. Don't you know that you are a temple for the Holy Spirit to dwell? Don't you know you are a place for His presence? You're to carry His presence with you wherever you go. See, that's not a new concept. He always wanted to dwell with you in the cool of the day, like He did with Adam. He always wanted to be with you wherever you were. So how do we do that? Well, this is part of that experience. As we read through the Torah, we see the choices and the things that are made, and we have to choose to be a part with the body, right? So here we go. Look at Numbers chapter 1. So Yahweh spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting on the first day of the second month in the second year after they had come out of the land of Egypt. They'd been here a year. Okay, they've now entered into the second year, first day of the second month. It says, take a census of all the congregation, the people of Israel, by clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, every male head by head. So what we see here is something interesting, and I know there's a lot that we can talk about as far as taking a census goes. Generally, when a census was taken, like here, it's for a king who wants to count his people for how many people they need to care for, how many people are in military service, how many people they need to do what, all that. But Yahweh is giving something here. He wants us to understand and to know we're being grouped by our family, and ultimately grouped as one family, but being called in as a people. Acknowledge here, you are an individual, you have your own thoughts, desires, and all that, right? But we have to learn to come together for something that's greater than us. Okay? Let's look at this. So it says they're grouped together. Let's look at this. In the Hebrew, it reads, Lamishpachotam levet avotam. So what we have here, individual members do not form a national congregation directly and immediately. The all-comprising national congregation consists of two concentric circles. The congregation is formed by tribes, and every tribe by families, so that the men are to be counted in their belonging to the family, and the families belonging to the tribe, and the numbers contained in each tribe added together to form the sum total, Adat B'nai Israel, the assembly of Israel. So what we're learning is that the individuals first group themselves into families, the families into tribes, and then finally the tribes in the higher union of all originating from one common house into the house of Israel. From their spreading out from one common stem, the tribes are called matot, which are tribes, but literally means branches. Okay, we can see that in Ezekiel. And from various families belonging to the common branch, the original family home. So that the one Beit Israel consists of 12 Betei Avot. The whole of Israel consists of the 12 fathers, the 12 brothers, Israel, right? So we are a part of a whole. We're something that's bigger than us, all right? Romans 12 says this, verse 16, live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but associate with the lowly. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Repay no one evil for evil. Give thought to what is good in the eyes of all people. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live in shalom with all people. So what we learn here is that if it's up to you, with it, as far as you can take it, live at peace with everyone. Now, here's the hard part. Not everybody wants peace. You can't make somebody have peace, nor can you make them live at peace with you. But with as much as it is up to you, live righteously, live honorably, and you be at peace with all. Okay? So we need to, again, see we have brothers and sisters. Treat them as brothers and sisters. Right? So let's take a look at this. If you were to ask people today, who is Israel? The answer would not be the tribes, but would rather be the breaking down of the different types of Judaism that's practiced. The ultra-Orthodox, Orthodox, traditional conservative, reform, all of that. Maybe we need to see that all who have entered into covenant with Yahweh are part of his covenant people. What a concept. All who come to him are part of his people. Ephesians 2, verse 12 and 13 says, at that time you were separate from the Messiah, excluded from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers to the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. But now in Messiah Yeshua, you who once were far off have been brought near by the blood of Messiah. See that? Without him, you were estranged from the commonwealth of Israel. You were not a partaker of the covenant. You didn't have the promise. But now in the Messiah Yeshua, that which you were far away from, you are now brought near to. We'll put it this way. When it says brought near, it doesn't mean standing next door to it. It means in it. So you were now, because of Messiah, you are a part with a people called Israel. You're part of the commonwealth of Israel. You're part of covenant. You have promise. Look at Galatians 3, 28 and 29. Says, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave or free, there is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Messiah Yeshua. If you belong to Messiah, you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Yahweh made promises to Abraham, and that was passed on to Yitzhak, to Yaakov, and Yaakov's sons, who is Israel. And part of this is all those in the nations. There will be nations that will be grouped together and come in with and be a part of the nation of Israel. Romans 11, verses 16 to 18 talks about being grafted in. See, you were part of the branch, right? When another word for branch is what? Matot, tribe. So you're part of this branch, but there were some branches that were cut off, but they're now being grafted back in. And he says, remember, don't become proud or don't become arrogant, because you don't support the root. The root supports you. So again, we're part of that tree. You're a branch in the tree. Romans 12. Verse 4 says, for as in one body we have many members, and all the members do not all have the same function. So we, though many, are one body in the Messiah, and individually members of one another. See that? So what we have is now we are part of a body, and we all function differently. We think differently. We act differently. We have our own personalities and characteristics and the things ways we like to do things. But as long as our goal and our focus is toward Yahweh, we need to understand we are a part of the body, and the body has many different parts that have many different functions that if you separated them out and looked at them all on a board and their different functions, you might not be able to see how can all these things exist together. But they do. And that's the way Yahweh's called us. Ephesians 4:22 says, put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in the true righteousness of holiness. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. And that's what we need to understand. In John 17, Yeshua prayed, Father, I pray that they are one like we are one, right? And at first you would say, okay, he wants his disciples to be one with God like he is one with Yah, right? Yes, but he also wants us to be part of one another. Okay? So what we have here is literally one nation under God. Look at this. Samson Raphael Hirsch in the Pentateuch says this. The whole nation is looked at and called as one household, Beit Israel, house of Israel, as the children of one man, Bnei Israel, house of Israel. And on the other hand, then this union shall remain and are considered as separate units. Mishpachot, the word mishpacha is family. Okay, mishpachot is families. So they're considered separate units, families. It forms the peculiarity of Jewish nationality. But considering the nation as the house of Israel and all its nationals as children of Israel, the conception of the Jewish nation protected from taking itself to be without the necessity for real internal union, or to imagine that the appearance of a united representation of a model nation is a mere fiction. It must always, in all times, make itself thought of and the essential, real, universal calling of its members, who by a common factor are one. Each one of them must feel himself to be and to present himself as part of this entity. Continuing on. The hundreds and thousands of the house of Israel do not come to the nation as a disjointed mass, but lemishpechotam levet avotam, the families of the house, their fathers, according to their families, and these families in reference to the tribe to which they belong. The number of the men in each tribe is noted, and the families in each tribe kept separately, and each family, b'mispar shemot, each family, b'mispar shemot, numbered by their names. Every member of the family is counted by name, so that each one joins the whole conscious of the importance of his personality to the nation. And indeed, kol zechar, I'm going to trip this up, guys, legul gelotam, literally every male, head by head. Each person has personally to hand in his half shekel and report as so-and-so from this or that family of this or that tribe. You're an individual. You have your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own ways, your own things that you do. But Yahweh has called you as an individual to be a part of a family who is part of a greater family. See that? That's what he's called for us. He wants us to be in unity with one another. Hinei matov, right? Psalm 133. How good and pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. And that doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything. Unity doesn't mean that we agree with every line by line idea, concept, theology. It doesn't mean that. It means we can work together to the honor of Yahweh for his desires, for his heart, his ways. And see, there's something greater here. We are a part of a body that is way beyond us. We don't have all the answers. None of us do. Not until we all come together as a body, as a collective, will we truly have all the answers. And that's only going to happen in Messiah. And because, see, he's the one with all the answers, not us. So when we come together, that honors him. And when we do come together, he can use us for that. We can be that family that's supposed to be a light to the nations and to help show the heart of the Father in this world. All right. So, guys, that's all I have for you today. I pray that the short word is just a challenge to you. I pray that it encourages you as well. I hope it's a blessing to you. And if it is, please share it. Whatever avenue, however you watch it, however you listen to it, whatever it may be, please share it. And if it is a blessing for you, please consider making a donation to help us continue making these videos. It does cost us in order to put this out, time, effort, and equipment, and everything else involved. So, if this is a blessing to you, please consider making a donation to keep these going. All right. And until then, next week we continue this book, and we continue to pursue the heart of the Father, and we continue to learn his ways. All right. So until next time, be blessed, be a blessing, be blessed, and Shalom.